Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome to CSE 212. If you missed class on Thursday, the 22nd, I'm going to review what we did in class because some people weren't there, and it'll get you started, or you could review it even if you were there. But one of the things we did was go to our assignments on your Blackboard and download the zipped file. So I'm going to do that right now and do a save link as. And I'm going to save that in my named folder. And if I don't have an MMW folder, I'm going to make one. I'll call it MMW. And I'll also make another folder for exercises, which is what this is. And while I'm doing it, I'm going to make another folder here, inside here for projects, which we always do in the lab. And I'm going to save this in exercises. So that's where I'm going to save it. And I'll double click down here to unzip it, and there it is. And the only thing inside that folder is a sample. I'm going to double click on the sample, and what this is a sample of our snowman, and we're going to do different things with this. This is just the first part, but if you look at the snowman, and it's on a loop right now, it's just playing the same thing. It's maybe a 5-second movie that's playing over and over. There's a couple things happening. There's a hat that's moving in from one side. There's eyes coming down. There's a nose that's starting really big and then getting small in the middle of the face. The mouth is actually just fading in. It's not moving, it's just fading into position. And there's a arm that's growing out of the side of the snowman. So there's a couple things here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things happening to the snowman. And notice that there's a background of light blue color. There's snowman's white with some gray trim. So that's what we're going to work on, and we're going to start this from scratch. So I'm going to launch Flash, and I'm going to go File New, and I'm going to use ActionScript 3. That's what we'll be using. But for now, we could use the standard size, 550 by 400, and the frame rate we could make 15. We don't have to be at 24 for now. So we'll use 15 frames per second. And there is the stage right now. There's my tools over here. If this happens to be in one column, you could stretch it out and make it 2 columns. This is the stage. These are your layers over here. This is your timeline. And these are your properties over here. And there's also a little area here for other little palettes that can fly out as you use them. So we're going to start off by just using our properties palette and changing the background color of the stage. I'm just going to use a light blue for now. And you can choose a different light blue. I'll try a cooler light blue. And I'm going to start with that, and that changes the background. If you needed anything like a gradient or anything, you'd have to kind of draw a rectangle on top of that. But there's nothing on the stage right now. We just changed the background color. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to just make some snow in the foreground, like the sample. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rectangle tool over here, just like in Illustrator. Now, to use this, I'm going to make sure that this little area, if I hover over here, it's called object drawing. I'm going to make sure that's turned on. That keeps things grouped together so that they're not. If they're not grouped together, they almost work like pixels in Photoshop, where similar colors kind of join together and become one. So we're going to be working our object drawing for now. So make sure that's on. This is off, and now it's on. And always check it, even when you change tools and you use an oval or something. Make sure you check it. So. And I'm going to go here to the pencil and make that be none. Use the red slash and make it none. And I'm going to use the fill color and make it white. And I'm just going to draw a kind of just white box down at the bottom. And what I can do with this is take the eraser tool. Now the eraser tool has different options here, different size erasers and different shapes. You can't really go bigger than this, but you can zoom out so that your eraser kind of is bigger in proportion. So if I wanted to like zoom out a little, I could zoom out. Now my eraser's big just because my screen's smaller. And I'm just going to use my eraser, and even though it's in that group state, I'm just going to just rough it up a little bit. And it looks like it was like painting, but it really wasn't, so I'll zoom back in. And I just made I just erased it just to rough it up a little bit so it looks more like snow. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put a little like light gray accents on here by using the paintbrush. I'm going to click on my paintbrush. Now, there's a couple ways to do it, but the easiest way that worked in class was to go on the paintbrush, choose like a real light gray color, and then there's this little thing here. It has like a circle with a squiggly. if you go here and put it on paint selection, a couple ways will work, but I found it worked the easiest for me, at least, with paint selection. And what that means is I'm going to select this thing, and then I'm going to paint selection, and I'll make my paintbrush a little bit bigger. And what it means, it'll only paint the selection. So if I paint with gray on here, even if I go outside the borders, it'll only paint on that. So it kind of creates like a little bit of a, like a template for you. So I'm just going to do that just to make a little, just a little texture in there. You could do some in the foreground, but I'm just doing it here on the little hills, assuming like a light source is coming from this direction, so I'm doing some gray over there. And that's all I'm doing. So again, that was on the paintbrush. I did it with gray, and it is on object drawing, but I went to this thing, which is, I guess they call it brush mode. And I used paint selection, and I first made sure I selected the snow that I drew, and then I painted, and it only painted on the selection. It didn't paint like underneath it or outside the lines. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is make the snowman. But before I do that, I'm going to go up into my layer palette. I'm going to double click right on the name, layer 1, and just call that snow foreground. Snow foreground. And the snow's on the foreground. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to lock it. I'm going to click on the dot here to lock it. You don't use these things unless you're doing it to all the layers. So the dot underneath the lock, I'm going to lock it so that I don't mess with it when I do anything on top of it. And to work on top of it, I'm going to make a new layer. So I'll use this little new layer icon, just like the other Adobe applications have that new layer icon. It looks like a dog-eared page. And I'm going to call this Snowman. And this is where I'm going to build my snowman. Okay, and I'm just going to make it, just like a real snowman out of circles. So I'm going to go here and change my rectangle tool to an oval tool, and I'll make sure it's on object mode. And so I can move them around independently. If you don't, they may get kind of stuck together and become one. And what I'm going to do is change my color to white before I start drawing it, and I'm going to draw just kind of one circle down here. And notice I'm now working on the snowman layer. If you did it on the wrong layer, you could cut this and paste it and move up to the next layer and paste it on a new layer. But this is the bottom of my snowman here. And I'm just going to drag copy. I'll just hold Option and make a copy. Now if I want to scale this, I don't have the transform handles like in Illustrator automatically. I have to use the transform tool. It's called the free transform tool. I'll use this and scale this thing down just a little bit to make the medium size. You can hold Shift. And this is the medium size part of the snowman. And even when it's in this mode, you can still hold Option and drag it again. And I'll make it a little smaller, and this will be the head of the snowman. And if you want to bring them closer together, bring the head down, that's probably good. I want to just make sure I have enough room for the hat. I could certainly, Shift click all three, use this transform, and then scale them all down at one time. You can do that a little bit. But here's my snowman. Right now they're not grouped or anything, they're all just kind of separate. And even when they're separate, I'm still going to do that thing I did with the pencil. I'm going to keep them selected, and I'm going to use the paintbrush, and I'm going to select a gray color here, a light gray color, and I'll make sure it's still on paint selection, and I'm just going to add some shading here, just so it kind of like shades underneath, as if the light source is coming. And you can see it kind of stays right on the snowman. Not the nicest job there, but you get the idea. A little sloppy, but that's okay. If you needed to erase something, you could erase from that, or you could just use white. I could change this to white, and I could just kind of paint back over that if I wanted to. And it would only paint in the selection, so if I did a sloppy job, I could paint back with white inside of that. Or I could certainly zoom in a little bit and do a little better job. I don't have to be so far away. So anyway, that's doing a little accenting on the snowman. And that's pretty much all I need with the snowman right now.